Finishing up as we head into Week 9 of the End Zone, presented by TiVo. Alongside Ian Eagle, I'm Jason Horwitz. Glad to be with you on CBSSports.com and on your TiVo DVR via TiVoCast. And we finish up with a couple teams just charging through. They are making their push. And these are teams that expected to be in the postseason.
Oh, yeah.
They expected to be contending for the Super Bowl. When the season started, they stunk. The Chargers, the Saints, they were god-awful. Let's start with New Orleans right now because the Chargers, they may run away with the AFC West with the way that they're playing and the way that the rest of the division. But the Saints, they're in a battle for the NFC South with the Panthers and the Buccaneers. And after starting the season 0-4, they've won 3 in a row. And when you look at the way that they turned the football over the first 4 games, 12 turnovers the first football games, and only 3 in the last 3, you see right there the reason why they've won 3 in a row.
Well, I think a lot of people had pushed the panic button around the NFL in regards to New Orleans, and why not? I mean, when you start the season off 0-4 and you don't even resemble closely the team that you were 1 year ago, and a team that I thought could actually go out and win the NFC this year and go to the Super Bowl, well, there's reason for that kind of panic. This team now has reestablished themselves a bit on offense. First of all, Reggie Bush, I've been impressed. I've been impressed that Bush has been able to run inside more. He's becoming a more complete running back, and that was a question that I had once McAllister went down. We know what Bush can do as a weapon once he catches the football, getting out to the perimeter. He's willing to go inside and get those tough yards. In addition, I think the biggest issue we've seen from New Orleans first 4 games compared to the last 3, their receivers are catching the ball.
Yes.
They had a terrible case of the drops through the first 4 games of the season, and now finally Drew Brees is getting some plays out of his wideouts, and I think that's why you've seen some consistent production from them.
David Patton catching some balls. Devery Henderson, who's been the worst at dropping football.
He's been the biggest offender
for New Orleans. He's made a couple of touchdown grabs as well and playing much better as well. But the other side of this is the fact that their defense is getting pressure on the quarterback. In the first 4 games, I believe it was 1 sack, maybe 2. Last 3, 10 sacks. That makes a huge difference. So you pay Will Smith his money. Now the defense is starting to come up big as well. And they're starting to disguise the weakness in the secondary a little bit, which was getting exposed in the first 4 games. On the other side, San Diego's defense wasn't the problem. Well, it was a little bit.
It was a bit. They were in disarray early.
In New England,
And I think one last point, though, quickly on the defense for San Diego. Ted Cottrell was the new coordinator. Yep. And that was a problem initially. For whatever reason, Cottrell and that defensive unit, which had been so good under Wade Phillips, it was not connecting. Sean Merriman looked out of sorts, and now...
Sean Phillips, too.
And Sean Phillips, both Seans.
Well.
All right, we'll spread blame to both Seans.
Both sides.
And now they're looking like themselves again, and I think that's a big reason why the San Diego defense no longer is a question mark. Now you expect it again. Yep. They're back on that path where, oh, yeah, they're the San Diego defense.
And you also expect LaDainian Tomlinson to have a good season. And let's not forget, he started off slow last year as well, but the Chargers were winning. But this year he started off slow and they were not winning. He is starting to build up again. And, you know, the first 3 games, you also have to look at the defenses they played because, let's not forget, they started off with the Bears and the Patriots. It was going to be a struggle for him there.
Yeah.
But he's got 487 yards in the last 4 games that they've played after just 130 or so in the first 3.
Well, what really was the problem for Tomlinson and for the San Diego offense is there had been games in previous years for LT where he didn't have a great game, but in the fourth quarter, he'd rip off a 65-yard run or a swing pass to the outside, and he'd take it down the sideline for a touchdown. He wasn't getting any explosion plays through the first few weeks of this season. Now you're starting to see the big plays. What could be a 4-yard run turns into a 24-yard run, and I'm not worried about LaDainian Tomlinson. I don't think anybody around the league was. The larger issue probably on offense had to do with Phillip Rivers and Norv Turner coming together. They're not asking Phillip Rivers to be a superstar. That's not what they need from him. They just need him to run the offense, be efficient, don't make big mistakes, and I think we saw probably too many of those early on. I think once the dust settles in San Diego, this is a good marriage. Norv Turner, Phillip Rivers. Rivers is a student of the game. He's a coach's son. He's a film nut. I think he and Norv are going to forge a very good relationship. And there probably was an overreaction in regards to Norv. And he kept hearing the same thing that he heard in previous head coaching stints. Good coordinator, not a good head coach. That's not fair. It was too early to judge that with San Diego. Give this some time. the Chargers, they're still the third best team in my mind in the AFC.
Well, of course, and we're going to see the two best teams, go head-to-head this weekend with Indianapolis and New England. But the one thing we haven't mentioned about the Chargers that may even make them that much better as this season goes on, the addition of Chris Chambers, because now you have a legitimate wide receiver threat that you haven't had there since Keenan McCardle, and even Keenan McCardle was a guy getting older.
Great
so now
move.
You've got Chris Chambers for a draft pick. You've also obviously got Antonio Gates. You've got LaDainian Tomlinson. You've got some pieces there for Phillip Rivers to work with, and you've got an offense to support that defense.
And you're not asking Chambers to make big changes in what he does. This is the same offense he was running in Miami. Cam Cameron, Norv Turner,
exactly.
The connections are there. He can step right in. Other than some verbiage, this is the same offense.
Yep, and it's the same offense, and it's a Chris Chambers that you'll see, on a winning football team.
He's going to flourish.
In Miami. Folks, that's it for the End Zone here as we head into Week 9, presented by TiVo on CBSSports.com and on your TiVo DVR via TiVocast. At the end of this weekend, everybody will have played 8 games. You have a better idea of who is ready to go for the NFL season and who will be looking ahead towards next year's draft. But for Ryan Eagle, I'm Jason Horowitz. We will see you next week. Take care.